Bonjour. Bonjour, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are. We are live from Paris, France. My name is Bertrand. I'm the co-founder of the tour company, My Private Paris. And today I am spending a great evening with Laure Nermel. Bonjour, Laure. How are you?
Hello. Well, very good. You?
Very excited to be back at the Musée d'Orsay because it's not a given to be touring the Musée d'Orsay with a great expert such as you are, and especially at the moment when obviously it is closed. But thanks to you, we will be able to see the museum. Right. Before we start, Laure, I want to share just a few words about My Private Paris. So I'm going to share my screen right here. Hop là. So just to put you back in the context, most of you guys already know ourselves. I see that we have a lot of our regular fans who are here tonight. So bonsoir Gentes Dames, bonsoir Suzanne, bonsoir Maria. How are you? Bonsoir Sylvia. Please don't hesitate to ask as many questions as you want in the chat of the Facebook page, because today we are 100% live, so we can answer all your question. We're going to switch every 2 weeks, a live presentation with one of our best guides. Today it's Laure, so you can ask question directly. And then the week after, we broadcast a tour that we film in the streets of Paris. So My Private Paris, we are a tour company based in Paris. We're specialized in custom tours and tailored itineraries. And one of our most popular tour is actually the tour of the Musée d'Orsay. So we received a lot of emails from you guys asking, we want to see the Musée d'Orsay. Laure will tell us all about it. And Laure, I would like you to start not with the Musée d'Orsay, but by explaining to us the project you have developed this year, which is Women's Art Tours.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So thank you very much for sharing my website. And basically the project was to see collections of famous museums, such as the Louvre that you have on the banner just over there, and in another light, and to give a sort of another perspective to highlights or even to lesser known artists from the collection. So we usually in these tours, we actually talk about women artists or representation of the female body through art history. And it's also a way to enhance women's visibilities, voices, and individualities.
Great. And can you tell us a little more about yourself? Is this something that you are studying? I know you are close to closing your PhD, close to the end of your of writing your essay. How do you say in English? Because a thesis is something a little bit minor.
I always mix it up between masters and PhD because they have different terms in English, but I think that when it's about the PhD, you say dissertation, whereas we say dissertation for the master. Or yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm actually.
Wait! Not anyway, not anyway. That means that very quickly, very shortly, we will have to call you Dr. Nermel, right?
Oh yeah.
Dr. Laure. Yeah. I look forward to that.
I think that's completely useless when you go to a hospital. You like to call yourself doctor, but it's no use.
Yeah, but actually, I like to go to museum more than going to hospital, so I will find it useful. And so where this project comes from? It started this year, right?
Yeah, but it actually started a long time ago. A long time ago, when I was studying in South Africa. That's when I really started to study art history, and that's when I discovered gender studies. So it's about again bringing art history into another light, and also trying to study the female body and women artists. And that was about, I think, 10 years ago. And
wow.
Yeah. And now the PhD project is, I hope, in its completion, and I'm specializing on women artists from the Victorian period. So that is the second half of the 19th century.
Which fits very well being at Orsay with you, since the Musée d'Orsay is about the 1800s and early 1900s. So thank you very much for this presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours, because you have very, very interesting things to show us today. I want to say hello to Christy, who's joined us, Corey, Ginger, Maria, Ben. Once again, guys, don't hesitate to say hello first in the comments. Tell us where you are from, because that's the magic of a live tour. We can be in Paris, but you can be in many other places. So we have St. Louis, we have Seattle. So good morning from California, Tucson, Arizona. It's well, we'll see how many states we can collect in this tour. Laure, I leave the ground to you.
Thank you very much, Bertrand. I can actually make a comparison between your picture on your website and mine. Yours was much more crowded, and so basically, for those of you who are not well acquainted with the Musée d'Orsay, it's a fairly recent museum that opened in 1986, and
perfect year, the best year.
Yeah, and basically the collection of the Musée d'Orsay takes over where the Louvre stops. So in the Musée d'Orsay collection, you'll see artists represented roughly from the period from 1848 till 1914. And generally speaking, we say that these were the artists born after 1830, whereas the Louvre, it's about artists who were born before 1830. These are general rules. Obviously, there are exceptions. Of course. Yeah. And from you can see over there, well, the building was not dedicated to art in the first place.
Yes, it doesn't look like a, well, I kind of know where you're going there, Laure, but yeah, it's true that on this photo, you see that it's quite odd for a museum to have such a large space and tiny boxes, it looks like, on the ground.
Exactly. I'm going to show you quite a few other pictures so you can guess what it was in the first place. So this is a gorgeous view from the outside. Obviously, I couldn't, I couldn't resist temptation to show you this.
Thank you.
I think the exterior is also a clue, because when you see this and when you see this is an old photograph. Well, actually, it was a train station. So that's why you have the clock just over there in the distance. And here you can see the benches with people waiting. You have to imagine that in the center, there were a few tracks as well. So you could see the trains pass. And this train station was built in 1900 for the Universal Fair.
So it means that most of the work was actually made before the building of the museum was even created, and obviously before the institution was created. I just want to say a few more hellos, because we have Catherine from Chicago. Sylvia is asking if you have a favorite female artist. So keep this question in mind during your presentation. We have a Shalom from Israel, from Danny the Digger. He's a great guide of Israel. Claudia from Lisbon, Maureen from Chicago, Billy from snowy Wisconsin. Well, it's actually snowy in Paris also at the moment. D from Southern Arizona. I guess there's no snow right now in Southern Arizona, but I may be wrong. And Daryl from New York. So you see, Laure, your tour is getting more and more popular. We may need a second guide at some point.
Quite international.
Yes. So please go ahead. We have this train station, which of course is then, I mean, can be beautiful, but it's not a museum.
Yeah, but there's actually a strong link between the former use of the museum and what you have inside, because the train was actually a sign of modernity. And there are quite a few artworks in the Musée d'Orsay collection where you can see this train being represented. This is exactly what you have here in this painting by impressionist Claude Monet called the Saint-Lazare Station.
Claude who? Claude who? Is he
Monet?
famous?
Not money, but Monet.
Okay.
And
sorry.
yeah, sorry, you were saying?
No, you were saying something much more interesting. He's a train station painter.
Not just so, but he was attracted to the train being represented and contemporary life around him because it was interesting to paint in the sense that you can play on contrast between, you see the hard structures here of the train station with all the very contemporary manufactured materials that you had at the time, steel, glass, iron, and the very elusive foam that is conveyed here through the swift brushstrokes.
Yeah, that's true. I love this painting.
Yeah, me too. And in the train station, originally speaking, you had also a hotel and a ballroom that is still being preserved within the museum. You have it here.
Let's dance.
Yeah, it's a beautiful room.
And that room is still part of the museum, or are these photographs from the past?
No. It's still part of the museum. And in the past, it was very useful for people who took the train for Paris and who stayed there because there was a hotel also in the Orsay station. And then they could entertain themselves at night by attending a ball or a concert, maybe in this very room that still exists.
Wow. Can we still party in this room?
Well, you do have a couple of events going on in the Musée d'Orsay when it's open and there's no COVID, of course. But
a lot of wings.
Yeah. And sometimes you do have concerts still. I saw a fashion show once, I think. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you should have invited me. But I forgive you. I forgive you. Okay, so that's for the structure. Then in 1986, the train station, I guess, was no longer in use, so they transformed it into a museum. Is that so?
Yeah, they did. So basically between 1937 roughly and the opening of the museum, it had different uses, but they decided to convert it into a museum because they needed more room for 19th century art, and also because even if the Louvre is huge, there was no such place for galleries of 19th century art. And that's how you could see it today, with the different galleries here in the first floor. And if you have a zoom onto that image, I think that there's a sculpture that some Americans might recognize.
Yeah, the one on the left, right? At the very bottom left. Yeah. Why do we have Lady Liberty here in Paris?
Because it's a gift from the French to the Americans.
I knew it.
Yeah. And actually, there's quite a few ones available in Paris, displayed in Paris, inside and outside.
Do you have any tips for where to find Lady Liberty outside in Paris, since museums are closed at the moment? If some of you are in Paris and want to go on a treasure hunt and find Lady Liberty, I see 3. How many do you see outside?
I see. I think I know only one. I've heard of the 2 other ones, but I can't really remember where they are. I know the most obvious, the one that is just beside the Eiffel Tower on Swan Island, when you go on the docks and walk
the Swans
down there.
Island.
Yeah.
There is one in the Luxembourg Garden also. It's a little bit hidden in the trees and by the tennis courts. And there is one at the entrance of the Arts et Métiers Museum. But so the museum is closed. Yeah, just in the courtyard.
Okay.
But you can see it through the fence. But and they may be more.
That's the good thing with Paris. You always discover new things everywhere.
Well, last time we did a tour together, we were in Montmartre and we discovered the inside of Picasso's studio. So
Yeah.
there's always something new to see. We have a question from Sylvia, who was asking, what was there before the train station? Do you know that, Laure?
Oh, it was a sort of pavilion. I think it was used by the School of Fine Arts at some point. Yeah, I think, for some events as well.
Because just outside just outside the Musée d'Orsay, there's another museum, the one of the Legion of Honor, which is in a former aristocratic home. So there was quite a few beautiful homes. There's still a few beautiful homes by the riverside. So most probably was a beautiful private home, then a station, and then a public museum. Thank you for your question, Sylvia.
Thank you, Sylvia. So basically, I've put a little recap over here of the things that you need to know about the Musée d'Orsay and how big it is. Obviously, it's much smaller than the Louvre, and that's the reason why I like it so much as well, is because it feels a little bit less crowded. And also you can actually, if you spend the day there, you can see a lot of things, almost everything. And
That's
also
true.
we say that the 19th century is the century of isms in terms of styles, or what we call artistic movements. So don't be put off by this list that might sound a bit strange to you.
Like all of art history, it's just 50 years.
But don't worry, because I'm going to explain some of these movements to you. But if you want to understand where they are in the museums, basically, if we go back there, roughly speaking, on this side over here, you have the realists and some of the beginnings of Impressionism. And on this side, you have just the beginning of 19th century art history with the Romantics and the Classicists as well, and some other paintings that I will tell you about.
Perfect.
So the first thing I wanted to start with is sort of a big star of a museum in terms of painter and also in terms of painting. And here it is.
Ooh. Okay,
so
it's 20 past 7. We can start with the arts. So tell us more, because this is one of the most famous painting in the museum, the Olympia.
Absolutely. So basically what you're seeing here is a nude, a female nude that looks directly at the viewer, and she's placed on a bed. I love how Manet plays on the different hues of whites here, and she's being attended by a black servant just over there, and you can see a strange little cat just over here in the right hand corner. And this is a painting that caused quite a stir at the Salon. The Salon was an exhibition that took place in the Louvre, in the square courtyard of the Louvre, and where a lot of people would go and visit to see the art, to see the artworks. Because at that time, obviously, you didn't have Netflix or you didn't have cinema. So if you wanted to see images in color, you went to art galleries.
Okay.
And
so this salon, it is a yearly thing. It's all year round. It's just
it depends. Sometimes it's once a year. Sometimes it's every 2 years. In the 18th century, for instance, you had a philosopher called Diderot who covered the Salon, and at his time period, it was every 2 years. But in the 19th century, more than often, you had salons, official salons, every year.
Okay, that's why you have more isms then. If you have more salon, then you have more styles. Because you need, I mean, is there you need to shock, right, to be noticed? Otherwise, you just have another painting in the salon. Is that the point with this painting, or was nudity something you could see on other paintings at the same time?
Well, it's actually you had to be extremely clever to please the jury of the Salon and or to win a medal. Basically, there was another painting that was exhibited that same year, that won popular acclaim and also the acclaim of the emperor and the empress. And it's this one. This one was a hit. Everyone loved it. And it's weird because to us, 21st century spectators, because to us, this painting maybe looks way more shocking or erotic or alluring than Manet's
the previous one.
Yeah, but here the difference is that you have a goddess being represented. She's Venus, she's the goddess of love and beauty. So basically that's a sort of an excuse, if you like, to represent very, very in your face eroticism. Whereas Olympia is actually pretty modern, and you don't have a classical reference. The only classical reference that you have is the name, but that's all. There is no indication that this scene takes place in ancient Greece or in ancient mythology.
Yeah, or in a fantasy world. Here it looks like it looks, it's not as a photograph, but it looks like it's part of our times. I mean, at the time of the painting, while the other one is just an imagination.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, because Manet liked to paint contemporary things that he liked to see and his surroundings, but at the same time he claimed that there were quite a few references from the past, and there were two actually. The first one is Titian. If you compare the pose of Olympia and the pose of the Venus of Urbino, it's pretty similar.
Titian, can you remind us the context a little bit? He is an Italian painter.
He's an Italian painter painting in very rich colors, and basically he's from, I think it's Venice, right? I think it's from Venice, and well, here we do have a classical reference. So you see the limits between what is scandalous, what is nude, what is naked, what is appropriate, what is not, is very thin.
So wait a second. Are you telling us that in the 1530s, Titian paints that painting, the Venus of Urbino, and it's not a scandal at all? And more than 300 years later, Manet paints the Olympia, and 300 years later, people are way more shocked?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they are.
And because clearly it looks like a cover. I mean, you see the position, the hand, also the look. I mean, looking straight at the, because we don't see the eye in the Cabanel Venus.
No. She's averting the eyes, averting the gaze, and you've raised quite an important point because, well, actually, it was very common to represent nude females with eyes closed or downcast, but also in everyday life. It was actually very hard if you came across a respectable lady to catch her gaze. First of all, because her status dictated her that she shouldn't watch people in the face, otherwise she would be taken for a prostitute, and also because of the hats that they were wearing.
Wow. Okay.
So that's why. And here the interesting thing is that again, you see the face, you see the eyes, and she was a well-known person. So actually she sat a lot for Manet. Her name is Victorine Moreau, but she was also a painter, and she exhibited quite a lot at the Salon as well. So the same Salon that Manet. Yeah. So there's also this difference. You know the identity of the two models. Actually, the other model over here has my name. Her name is Laure.
Really?
Yeah.
And she was a painter also?
That I don't know. Well, we don't have a lot of traces of her biography, but what we know is that she sat for quite a few painters, Manet included, another painter linked to the impressionist movement called Frédéric Basile as well.
Yeah. Okay, so if you know this painting so well, what's the name of the cat, Laure?
I don't know. I don't know the name of the cat, but
that is a stupid question. But we have interesting question. There's Robin who says that she never noticed how lovely are Olympia's bed sheets, and it's true that at first when you see this painting, you don't look at the bed sheets, so you need to take a bit of time and then see the contrast. And then she's asking if Manet added the black cat, the chat noir, while in contrast with the sleeping puppy in Titian's painting. Is there a correlation between the black cat that seems to be ready to attack us, while the Venus puppy is just a doll?
No, I think she's right. There are several interpretations of this painting, claiming that the cat is an allusion to. Oops, sorry, I have my screen. Yeah, an allusion to sort of counteract of the dog that you have sleeping there. And in terms of representation, well, some critics were actually shocked by the way the cat was represented, because you see, Manet didn't. Yes, and also here it's not very perceptible, but he actually used quite swift brushstrokes to represent the cat. It's not painted in a very acute or very precise way. It's just just a few brushstrokes suggesting the emotion in the cat. And I think there's a third reason. We have a black cat to act as a sort of counter shape with the bed sheets, because they're white, and the cat is black. So it creates a nice contrast.
It does. All right, thank you very much. I'm actually a guide myself too, and I'm learning a lot of things tonight. I'm very, very happy with that. Thank you, Laure.
There is this one last image I wanted to show you, because Manet was a bit of a show off, and he liked to represent images in his own work, his own paintings in his own paintings. So you see it here, the engraving of Olympia, just right there.
Wait a second. Are you saying that the portrait of Émile Zola is also a Manet's paintings?
Yeah.
Where he quotes himself in his own painting?
Yeah.
That's clearly show off. But why not? I mean, and there was a connection, right? Didn't Zola write news pieces, articles on Olympia?
Yeah, and on Manet, and you can actually see that in the painting itself. Here we do have an essay, his own essay, with the title Manet on it, that he actually wrote, that Zola wrote.
Okay, so it's like a collab you would find on YouTube or on social media this way. It's okay, you write on me and I put you in my paintings.
Exactly. So I think we can move on to the next painting. So before, when you tour the Musée d'Orsay, and here we are basically on the ground floor. And then if you do want to cross the galleries, you're going to see something completely different. Because here we do have an artwork by a painter who's called Gustave Moreau, who's actually probably my favorite French painter. Yeah. Okay. And it's the painting of Orpheus. So now I'm going to tell you the story of Orpheus, which is a story from classical antiquity, and then you're going to try to understand or elucidate something about the painting. Basically, the story of Orpheus starts with this prince who's endowed with a beautiful voice and who's able to play the lyra that you can see just right there in the painting. And he's very much in love with his wife, Eurydice, but Eurydice dies because she steps on a snake. So then she goes to the underworld, and Orpheus tries to take her back by seducing the king and queen and the underworld by singing to them. They say, "That's right, you're allowed to do so and to take her back, but on the one condition that on the way back to Earth, you never ever look at her in the eyes." And so just as Orpheus is getting out of the underworld, but Eurydice is still there behind him, he cannot resist temptation because he loves her so much. Then he turns back, and then she goes back to forever. So after that, he sings.
Terrible story.
After that, he sings his sorrow in the woods, and nearby you have the priestesses of the god of wine who are drunk, and they cut his head that you can see over there. And as the story goes, the head goes down the river of the dead. And as the legend says, the head arrived in an island, the island of Lesbos, where the poetess Sappho used to live. So now my question, Bertrand, is who is this woman? There is no right or wrong answer.
Who is this woman? Well, didn't you just say that it's the poetess Sappho?
Maybe, but some people have other interpretations as well.
That could be Eurydice?
That could be. That could also be, I don't know, a nymph from the woods. Because you can see here on the top of the cliff over there, you have a band of musicians. That could also be one of the priestesses of the god of wine, who is regretting over her act of killing Orpheus, whose head is just over there. So there are multiple interpretations that you can draw.
Because you didn't tell us, why did they cut off his head? He was singing, he had a beautiful voice. They just didn't like singing?
I think they were under the influence of wine, and because we say traditionally in ancient mythology that you have two different kind of music, that you have the beautiful kind of music from the god of music Apollo and from Orpheus, and you have the wilder part of dance, of music located in the woods, and that comes from the god of wine and his
Bacchus, Dionysus.
Yeah.
We have Robin here on YouTube who is asking, might she be Persephone?
Oh, that's a very, maybe. That's a very good interpretation. I really like it. Yeah, that could be. And that's what I like with Moreau's artworks, because Moreau was part of a larger movement that we call symbolism. I'll explain to you what it's about later on. But basically, symbolism is all about creating dreamy atmospheres, taking the seer, taking the spectator into another land. So that's why here Moreau is trying to suggest reverie, dream, with very restricted color palettes, but also with a lot of ornaments and different effects. There are also other details over here from the paintings. I like
turtles.
Like the two turtles, and you see how he treats landscape in an almost abstract way.
And is there a reason why he's using so few colors? Is it to create this dreamy atmosphere, or is it more practical? He can't afford to buy more paint, and he's using only one shade of colors, or Gustave Moreau had money, and it's not that kind of
no. I think
limits.
I think he really knew what he was about. And if you look at other paintings, you will see another range, another color palette. For instance, there are other paintings, it's more about the reds and the ochres to create that kind of atmosphere.
If you guys come back to Paris, and you should, there is a museum in Paris that is the workshop of Gustave Moreau, and I'm sure Laure would be delighted to take you there.
I love that museum. You have a beautiful winding mahogany staircase, and you also have some panels that you can draw to yourself, and you see the watercolors and the drawings of Gustave Moreau. It's a treat.
It is. Thank you very much.
So you're going to see in my next slide that symbolism.
Poetry.
Yes, symbolism is actually about making some links between different forms of art, because it's a movement that affected visual arts, but also literature. So that's why I showed you here this extract from the Symbolist Manifesto by Jean Moreas, who was a poet, and this quotation tells you what it's about, basically, to create dreams and to try to see beyond appearances. And the theme of Orpheus is actually a theme that has inspired countless artists from antiquity till the present day. So that's why you have this extract from Nerval, who's probably my favorite French poet as well.
Yes.
And yeah, I tried to find a nice translation. And to actually respond to that, I have a bit of a surprise to you guys, and to show you that Orpheus has an influence.
You have a lobster.
Yeah.
Wasn't Gérard de Nerval the petting a lobster and walking a lobster in the streets of Paris? Or is that a crazy story?
Apparently, it's a rumor that another poet, who was a friend of Picasso's, so his name is Guillaume Apollinaire. It was a rumor that he launched to try to add up to the celebrity of Gérard de Nerval, who's a very enigmatic figure.
Laure, if you're about to tell me that that story is not true, I hope no one is watching this tour after taking a tour of Montmartre with me, because it's a story I love to tell. So now I'm going to say that it's a rumor launched by Guillaume Apollinaire. But if I was wrong, then I'm sorry.
I like to tell the story too, but I'm not sure it was.
It's even doable to walk a lobster. Just like that on the pavement. So, you were telling us, so there is a connection between the literature, the visual arts, and more art shapes.
Yes, also this music, and this is why I want you to listen to a piece of music that I prepared for you. So here it goes. So you've just been listening to a song by Arcade Fire, a Canadian band. It's called Orpheus, and it's on their fourth album, Reflector, of 2014.
So not at all the contemporary to the work of Gustave Moreau.
No, but it's just to show you that this theme of Orpheus, the poet, singing and seducing the king and the queen of the dead, is still very present today.
Yes, I mean that's the beauty of mythologies, that it talks to us no matter where we are, when we are. And it is a beautiful, sad but beautiful story. That was cool. Do you play Arcade Fire when you get to the Musée d'Orsay on your tours?
No, I don't. Actually, it's an idea I had for the tour today, which is crazy that I didn't think of this before. But yeah, no, I don't on live tours.
Because then I would suggest to do that piece as the last piece of your tour, because they might kick you off if you start playing music in the museum, which is sad, because it's true that but they do host concerts though in the Musée d'Orsay from time to time.
Yeah, they do.
All right, thank you.
So I think that now we are ready to go onto the 5th floor.
Yes,
of the museum.
The big stars.
Yeah, this one is hugely popular because that's where you have the Impressionist collection. And the Impressionist artist that I wanted to talk about is just right there. So you have to just go a little bit deeper into the galleries. So here we are, Mary Cassatt, Woman Sewing in the Garden. It's the only painting by this particular artist that is presented in the Musée d'Orsay collection. Otherwise, you have a lot of pastels by her, but because it's quite a fragile medium, they are kept in storage. They are only showed sometimes for a brief period of time. So Mary Cassatt, have you heard of her?
Yes, but so just to be clear, this is the only painting by her you can see at the museum. You've said that she did a lot of pastels, but she did a lot of other paintings.
Oh yeah. But most
that
of the
are
time,
in the collection of the museum. It's just that they don't show it.
I'm not sure that the Musée d'Orsay has a lot of paintings by her.
Okay.
Otherwise, most paintings by Mary Cassatt are owned by either private collections
Mm-hmm.
or a lot of American museums, because she's
Okay.
from the US.
Because she's from the US, yes.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Because I'm sure that the board of the Orsay Museum is watching us right now. So if they had Mary Cassatt's paintings that they're not showing, we would file a ticket to say, okay, just start doing it more.
Well, for
Tell
that,
us more about Cassatt.
Yeah. So she's basically from the US, and she was initially trained at the Philadelphia Academy, because that was also one of the differences between France and the US. US academies were open to women. That was not the case in Paris at the time. Well, the School of the Fine Arts was not open to women, but she didn't really enjoy the teaching there, and so she went to France quite a few times. She made quite a few stay there, and she met the Impressionist group, and she started to exhibit with them in 1879. And Impressionism is, well, as the word says, all about the impression. So that's why the artist would use a very swift or even broken brushstroke. If you look at the background behind the figure, it's almost abstract. But what is nice is that you have this color range of greens and also hues of orange that are actually aimed at putting the subjects over here into relief. And the definition of the figure over there is much more precise.
That is true. That is true. I didn't know they could use broken brushes. That they broke on purpose to create this distinction between very precise and much more rough nature behind.
It's a technique actually allowing you to show you the sensitive or material aspect of paint, in the sense that the paint is not applied like a sort of glossy surface where you cannot see textures and also play on matter. Here you can actually see it.
Yeah.
And they used square brushstrokes. That's how they could achieve that effect as well.
Okay. And so on the right, there she is, Mary Cassatt.
Yes, that's her. Just right.
Very elegantly dressed.
Yeah. And the one of the impressionists who was very good friends with her was Degas. That's with Edgar Degas that Mary Cassatt used to go to the Louvre. And here I've put a little quotation by her to show you the impact that this meeting with Degas had onto her life. She said that basically when she visited his studio and saw all the art, the representation of workers, contemporary life, ballerinas, not in a pretty way, but straining and also with their bodies aching, it changed her life, basically.
Yeah, and it is beautiful in its own way. It's just that it's not perfect in like a porcelain doll. It is lively and true.
Absolutely. And in the last slide onto that subject, I showed you this because this is a recent exhibition that we had on Mary Cassatt, not at the Musée d'Orsay. It was the smaller museum called the Musée Jacquemart-André, which was showcasing quite a few of her works. And you were talking about paintings, Bertrand, and for the curators of that exhibition, it was quite a challenge because they reunited all these paintings by private owners.
And that was this year, a year ago, 2 years ago?
2018 or something.
2019,
yeah.
The good old days, right?
Yeah. So Mary Cassatt was not the only woman who was included in the Impressionist circle. You also have quite a few other ones. Oh, that's one of her pastels over there. She represents quite a few mothers and their babies. You have Bertrand, who's probably the best known,
the big star. Yeah.
Yes, and especially by the French public.
Yes, that's true.
And you have also Marie Bracquemont. And you have also another one who was a student of Manet called Eva Gonzalez. So this is also to show you that Impressionism was an art movement that was actually quite promoting women's creation, which was quite unique in its way.
At the time, yeah. Because I didn't know Marie Bracquemont. Do we see paintings of her at the Musée d'Orsay? Is this the ladies with a parasol? Is it there?
Yeah. Sometimes we see it, sometimes not. That's one thing that certain guides find very upsetting about the Musée d'Orsay collection, that it moves a lot. Even sometimes you have one painting that's on the walls, you come back 2 days after and will be on another wall, or sometimes it goes back in storage. And also paintings by women artists now are very much sought after by foreign institutions on loan for their exhibitions or special displays.
Okay. You're revealing one of the secrets of the guide's life, which is in some museums like the Louvre, everywhere, everything, where which art will be. It very rarely moves, but it's true for the Musée d'Orsay. As guides, it's very challenging and very risky to say, okay, and in the next room I'm going to show you this, because paintings are moving all the time inside the museum, in and out the museum also. So it's a fascinating but difficult job.
Yeah, quite right. So now we're going at the very end of the Impressionist galleries. So that's really what we call post-impressionism. So basically these artists represented here are not technically impressionist in the sense that we have seen with Mary Cassatt or with Bertrand, but what they did learn from these artists was the applying and the use of color. And so from that moment on, that is the end of the 19th century, color would never be used the same way ever, especially for these artists. And obviously the most famous one in this gallery is Van Gogh, Vincent Van Gogh.
Never heard of him.
No?
No, never.
So I really like this particular reproduction because usually the very upsetting, frustrating thing with Van Gogh is that you gain nothing from pictures or from reproductions of his artworks, because there's a lot of textures, because he uses the square brush, as I told you, but also knife to apply paint, and with this very specific gesture that we can recognize from his painting as Vincent Van Gogh's,
Yes, it almost looked like a mosaic sometimes.
It does. It does. And usually when some people tell me about certain artists, well, for certain artists, you can think about line or the way of painting the nude as a characteristic. With Van Gogh, I always think of two colors, either orange and blue or yellow and blue. And that's the case over here.
Yes. That works perfectly for the Starry Nights. That one, it's the city of Arles, right?
Yeah.
I love this
bend of the Rhône River, just over here, and you see how nicely he plays on the differences between the reflection of the stars, but also the reflection of the light coming from the city, just over there. And they're almost aligned. You see the lines forming between the stars and the reflections over there. And also, I don't know if you've ever noticed, Bertrand, but we have the representation of the star constellation.
Like
Grand Bear in English? I'm not even sure.
I have no idea how you say that in English. We call it the
frying pan.
Big Bear. Yeah.
The saucepan over here.
I never saw that, but now I
And
see
then
it clearly.
yeah, you do. And Van Gogh is also an artist who's
Mm,
famous for his self-portraits. So we have some of there. This one
yes.
is in the Musée
Yes.
collection. So I told
Yeah.
you orange and blue again. And
Hmm.
why these combination? Because it came from a color theory that was very popular, very fashionable at the time. So that's why you have the chart that I showed you over here.
There's Corey who's telling us on the chat that in English it's called the Big Dipper.
Dipper,
In
okay.
Big Dipper or Ursa Major. Ursa means I believe
Ursa,
it might
yeah,
be, or is
yeah.
the bear or
Mm-mm.
the Big Dipper. Thank you guys for your help. We're learning from one another here today. So this star of colors, I
Yeah.
see you said that Van Gogh uses a lot the blue and the orange, or
Mm-hmm.
the blue and the yellow. So is there some kind of picking colors that are on extreme sides of the star?
Yeah. So these three ones, yellow, blue, and red, are what we call the primary colors, in the
Mhm.
sense that if you want to create, if you have tubes of paint, for instance, with yellow, blue, and red, what you can do is that you can create your own secondary colors that are orange, green, and purple. Because green, for instance, is going to come by mixing up yellow and blue. And this is what Van Gogh does by playing on, on these color scheme in Starry Night. You
Yeah,
have the yellows, you have the blues, and you have those two mixing up over here, especially in the foreground,
yeah,
just
yeah.
there.
Fascinating.
And as for the blue and orange, you are absolutely right. These are on the two opposing poles of the scheme. So it creates quite an effect on your
Mhm.
retina. And Van Gogh was quite interested in those, in these color effects. So just to
Le-
finish on Van Gogh,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry, you wanted to ask something?
yeah. It was a joke, but if you go back to the scheme,
Yeah.
because I always try to find a way in any tour, whether it's a live tour or a real life tour, to mention the Basque country, which is where I come from. So in the Basque country, we use a lot the green and the red, and so I see that it fits the scheme. So it works well, the contrast in that. All right, mission accomplished. I've mentioned the Basque country. You can go on.
So another thing I wanted to tell you with Van Gogh is that most of the time you find a lot of biographies that interpret his artworks by his mental issues that he had,
Hmm.
and sometimes a little simplistic way. Well, there was an exhibition in Paris that put things into perspective, and it was about the relationship, the reception of Van Gogh
Hmm.
by a writer called Anton Artaud, who wrote this piece called "The Man Suicided by Society," and who basically explained that when you have a fit, when you have a mental breakdown, because he was diagnosed with more or less the same issues than Van Gogh, that's not when you're in a state to create. And he actually wrote his own piece on Van Gogh, and this exhibition was fantastic. It was great,
Yeah,
and I like this quotation.
Van Gogh doesn't make life prettier; he creates an entire new one, purely and solely another one. Yeah, that is a beautiful quotation.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah,
also the
but
difference between Van Gogh, I think, and the Impressionists. The Impressionists tried to recreate an impression of reality, but with
of what
the
is, yeah.
yeah, and with Van Gogh and other artists like Gauguin, for instance, it's more about a subjective interpretation of the things that you have before your eyes.
Really cool. There's Betsy here on the chat who says, "Come see us in Nashville. Picasso figures, only U.S. appearance currently showing at the Frist."
Oh,
So we would be so happy to book the first flight to Nashville. Laure is a huge fan of music, and
oh
so I'm
yeah.
sure that the Nashville scene, you'd be happy. And if there is an art exhibition that is open at the moment, we are more than happy to come and do a live tour maybe from there.
Of course. So that's our last piece. And
Yes.
this is also to show you guys that in the Musée d'Orsay, you don't have just paintings. You actually have many different things to discover. You have sculptures and you have decorative arts. And the galleries of decorative arts are actually quite extensive.
Yeah.
So this is a bench for Smoking Parlour by Hector Guimard. So Hector Guimard, that name might not ring a bell, but I'm sure that if you see this, that he designed.
I am sure that any of you who's been to Paris has seen way more work by Guimard than by Van Gogh, by Da Vinci, by any other artist. It's Guimard you see without knowing it all over Paris. Yes, he designed the metro sign.
Absolutely. And Guimard was the promoter of a style that we call Art Nouveau. So Art Nouveau is all about, as you can see on this seat, fluid shapes, also the use of some vernacular sort of materials like organic materials, wood, boxwood, rosewood, etc., and also inspired by floral imagery drawn from the natural world, from plants, from flowers, but in a much more stylized way over there. I really like the sort of small thing that they put here, that where you could store your books, or maybe quite a few objects.
I picture it as a parrot cage or a parrot niche or
Me
something
too.
like this. I'd like to see a very colorful parrot in there. I think it would fit very well.
Yeah.
We have Jim McPherson, who's saying that there's a pretty good cafe in the Orsay museum too. That is true. Kathy, who's saying thank you very much for sharing such wonderful experience, and Susan, who's saying that she loves the furniture collection. So we're happy to enter the furniture collection.
I'd like to have this sort of bench in my apartment. Actually, it looks so nice, but now it's probably worth so much when you go
more than the apartment.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the contrast, also the color contrast that Guimard used, even though this is not the original upholstery. Originally speaking, you had more sort of tapestry-like upholstery with different motifs. So to finish, I'd like just to show you the few other works by Guimard that Bertrand was mentioning, that you have everywhere in Paris. And the funny thing is that they were not very popular during the lifetime of Hector Guimard.
Is that true? People didn't like it?
No, they only became popular later. No, they thought it was too extravagant. They called it noodle style, because of these weird shapes. And it's only later that it became popular, especially in quite a few movies. And I'm sure you've seen this image that maybe you can guess from which cartoon it's from.
I can absolutely guess, not only because we prepared this tour together, but because this is one of my favorite ones. Let's give a minute to you guys. 40 people are watching at the moment. It's very big for us. Let's try to see if you guys can guess what cartoon, or do you say what, an anime? No, cartoon.
Animated movie.
Animated movie. It's a fairly old animated movie. Very popular all around the world.
With animals.
And so with animals, yes. With cats, actually.
Yeah.
And so while you guys, we'll give you because there's a bit of delay between when we talk and when it's live. There's like 20 seconds. In the meantime, I would like to thank you all for being here with us since the COVID crisis started back in March. In Europe, we have been jobless, so we have found this way to keep sharing our passion for art with all of you. We do these tours every Saturday at 7 p.m. Paris time. But if you want to watch them live, but they stay in YouTube, so you can watch them whenever you want. And if you'd like to help us and support your guide, support our company, there's a link just below the video, a PayPal link where you can tip your guide for today and help us design tools for the coming weeks. So we'd start to have answers, and they are correct answers.
Yeah, well,
yes, the Aristocats.
Yeah, they're right. They're right with Paris, 1910. So you know, the old lady with the cats over there. I've just added a few.
Congratulations to Robin and Jim who found the Aristocats. And Dana was saying that she was thinking of the Lady and the Tramp.
Oh, but it's actually quite the same style of drawing. It's the same time period in the Disney creation. So she's not entirely wrong.
She's not too far. She's not too far. Wonderful. Good work.
I did a few recommendations if you guys are interested in the Musée d'Orsay. So you have this guide. So I didn't find the picture of the English version, but you do have the English version. I'm sure that you can find it online. My favorite French novel by Émile Zola that actually tells you everything you need to know about 19th century art, because as we said with Bertrand, he started his career as a journalist and an art critic. And if you're more interested in women artists, you have this fantastic book, and you have plenty of ones about the topic at the moment about women impressionists. So thank you very much. And
thank you,
I don't
Laure.
know, if there's any questions or
if you guys have a question before we wrap this up, I want to say a big thank you to you, Laure, and very quickly, Dr. Laure. Congratulations also for your beautiful website, which is called Women's Art Tools, womensarttools.com, where you offer private tools, and you have great photos on social media, and I learn a lot by following your Instagram account. And so if you guys want to check this out, it would be a great idea. You would be very happy. Thank you very much for all of you for spending this evening for us, morning, afternoon for you, wherever you are. It was a pleasure. Laure, I cannot wait to do another tour with you in the streets of Paris or in the Musée Gustave Moreau, maybe.
Oh yeah, anytime.
Anytime. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful evening, and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.